Good morning, guys. Anders back from the Sunday Standard. Now, look, episode 2.5 sort of called an audible and was like, I've been up all morning watching the Pat McAfee show. Now on to NFL Live. We've got Adam Schefter's Twitter open here, moving in real time. So just wanted to come back to you guys and sort of give you a brief rundown of everything that's sort of happened this morning over there in the States with the opening of free agency. Obviously, none of these deals can be made official until we look towards Wednesday or Thursday, our time here in Australia. However, big moves across the league this morning. So let's start off with probably one of the biggest now, not even a free agency related thing. It's the Miami Dolphins moving on from Tua. Now, look, the writing was on the wall when he was sat at the end of last season for those last final 3 games. So we thought it was pretty much the end of the line there for Tua in Miami. However, we're looking at a $99.2 million dead cap hit. Now, it will be a post-June 1st delegated for them, so they'll be able to split it. We're looking at $67.4 million in dead cap in this season, followed by $31.8 million over the following 2027 season. So look, we all sort of thought it was coming to an end there for Tua in Miami, which obviously with the ongoing concerns of his health, not only on a basis of can he go week to week, but his long-term health was also obviously a factor there. And we at one point didn't think he would ever play again after that second big concussion hit. But yes, and that wheels us in straight into the free agents move. Look, spoke about it in episode 2 that we went live yesterday with. I was under the impression that Malik Willis would go to Arizona. Arizona still yet to sign someone, however, potentially looking at a few options. Not entirely sure what happens there, but it'll be interesting to see who they end up rolling with. Malik going to the Dolphins. Malik Willis signed a $67.5 million deal, $45 million guaranteed over 3 years down there in Miami. So that means they're sort of stuck paying in the midst of $100 million almost this year for 2 quarterbacks. Malik has proven enough there in Green Bay last year for him to get paid. So really, really interesting decision there by Miami, but obviously looking to have Malik come in and be their sort of bridge quarterback for the next couple of years whilst they probably bring in a young rookie next year and then continue to have him sit behind Malik for another year to learn and grow and look to rebuild the organisation from the ground up, because essentially with $100 million cap hit over spread across 2 years, that's sort of what you are looking at. Now, I've still got NFL Live here, so in case anything else happens, got Shefty here on Twitter, so I do apologise if I'm sort of looking away, but this is happening in real time. Nothing really more to bring. Oh, no, safety Brian Cook heading to Cincy, 3 years over there at $42.5 million. So back to the list of players that I had written down here with some moves in free agency this morning that were reported live by Shefty on the Pat McAfee show there in Indy. We're also looking at Minkah Fitzpatrick heading up to the New York Jets, $40 million over 3 years. Great signing there for the Jets. It brings in a bit of veteran safety leadership in that secondary. Like I've said, 0 interceptions there from the Jets last year. And look, you've got to build around that. So Minkah Fitzpatrick, big get. Still think they go after Caleb Downs, and I still think they'd be silly not to when he is available at the 2. So interesting decision there to go after Minkah as well. We move on to the Steelers signing Michael Pittman Jr., looking at 3 years, $59 million. Great signing. Look, the Indies couldn't pay them both, so they're looking at a solid receiver there in Pittsburgh. Who is throwing to him? Look, I imagine Aaron might come back for another year. Aaron Rodgers, that is. However, we are still waiting to see. I would like to see just some news here. Travis Kelce and former Chiefs will return. Yeah, we sort of knew that happening. But yeah, Michael Pittman Jr. to the Steelers gives another option there to DK Metcalf, and a sort of bit of an interesting wide receiver room there. You got obviously a few options, especially Darnell Washington out of the tight end position, as well as Pat Frymouth. So some good pieces there in Pittsburgh. Potentially make some moves from some further moves in free agency. However, we move on to the Tennessee Titans. Wan'Dale Robinson heading over there to Tennessee. 4 years, $78 million, and $38 million of that guaranteed. Now, great get from the Tennessee Titans. It reconnects Daboll, who's now the offensive coordinator there in Tennessee, with Wan'Dale Robinson, obviously from the Giants most recently. But I still think they need to bring in a outside receiver. Wan'Dale is more of that inside the hashes sort of receiver, not that deep threat. So interesting to see what they do. One of the biggest ones that we all sort of saw happening was Mike Evans moving on from Tampa. Now that has come through, and he is heading off to San Francisco. So be fun to watch Mike play down at the MCG when the Niners play the Rams this season sometime in September. But yes, 3 years, $60.4 million. Now, I think that will probably be pretty heavily front-end deal with a aging Mike Evans, but I don't think he'll play that full 3 years, maybe 1 or 2. But good get from the 49ers, considering really they've only had production out of Christian McCaffrey from the backfield, as well as an option in the passing game. So really good get there from the 49ers. Interesting to see. And moving on to one of the biggest signings out of that free agency class, like Pierce from the Indianapolis Colts, staying in Indy. 4 years, $116 million a year. Now, that is big money. You're looking at $29 million a year, the most for a free agent wide receiver ever. Is he worth that money? That's big money. I think you're overpaying him a little bit too much. I think maybe that $22 million mark would have been more appropriate. Look, he's a great deep threat, most average yards per pass gained last year by a player. So interesting there by Indianapolis Colts, but probably the right decision. But I do think maybe overpaid just a touch. And another big move this morning from the Kansas City Chiefs, actually signing Kenneth Walker III, the Super Bowl MVP of the Seahawks this past season, going down to Kansas City for $43.05 over 3 years. A good get. Somebody had to pay him. Like I said, I thought it would be around that $35 to $40 million. So he does get what he is owed. I think Seattle would have liked to have kept him, but you can't pay everybody, unfortunately, even with this extensive salary cap now. Travis Etienne, coming from the Jacksonville Jaguars, signing down in the Bayou at the New Orleans Saints, 4 years for $52 million. What does that say about the Alvin Kamara situation? Do they move on from him? Do they use him as some sort of trade bait? Just had a live tweet here from Shefty. Is it a big move? What do we got? Former Seahawks edge boy Maff reaching an agreement on a 3-year deal with the Bengals. Bengals making some moves as well. Also just had Case Keenum re-signing with the Bears for a 2-year, $5.5 million deal with a max value of 8. So again, some interesting moves being made here in free agency day 1. Tyler Algier signing on at the Arizona Cardinals, 2 years, $12.25 million. An interesting move, I thought, considering that the Arizona Cardinals had decided to bring back Connor. I think they rejigged his deal as well for another couple of years down there in Arizona, so maybe a two-headed beast down there. Offensive line, now the biggest one, a interesting and had to be made decision, was Tyler Linderbaum signing to the Las Vegas Raiders. He's gone there for $81 million for 3 years, $60 million guaranteed, elite center money. Look, you're paying him more than $9 million more than Creed Humphrey down in Kansas that was on about a $17 million deal. So you're giving him about $9 million more there in Vegas. Vegas had the money to spend. You need to get an elite center. You need to be able to protect your investment in Fernando Mendoza, which you're going to go and get. So good pickup there by the Raiders and Clint Kubiak making some moves and spending a little bit of cash down there in Las Vegas. Another interesting signing now we didn't really see from a move by the Carolina Panthers this aggressive, and that is Jalen Phillips from the Philadelphia Eagles. Coming across from Miami halfway through the season and signing down in Carolina for $120 million over $80 million guaranteed. Great get. Carolina making some moves. It'd be interesting to see what's happening about that division. Tampa, Carolina, New Orleans. So we will wait to see there. And finally, the last one I'm probably going to touch on for now. Not much more happening at the moment. What have we got here? Nothing really. Just, obviously back to Mike Evans' episode briefly. Your quarterback, Brock Purdy, has the 13. So Mike Evans no longer wearing number 13 after having been 13 since his college days there at Texas A&M. But finally, the last player that I'm going to touch on this morning here is Kobe Bryant, another Seattle Seahawk making the move. Chicago Bears, 3 years, $40 million guaranteed. A very versatile back. Again, Seahawks, you can't pay everyone. There's going to be that Super Bowl hangover. Unfortunately, you are going to lose out on a few of your players, and Kobe Bryant being one of those that is making a move through to Chicago. Look, this is just the start of the NFL free agency. We've got another couple of days that we can sort of see some big moves being made. Still a lot of players on the board that haven't signed anywhere this morning. So I think potentially we see a few more today as we move into the evening over there in the States. But I certainly think we will see some more big moves coming off the board in the next couple of hours and into tomorrow morning. So full episode at the end of the week. As per usual, next Monday we will have a full wrap on the winners and losers of the free agency, who I thought was the best deals. We just had another one from Shefty before we log off here this morning, ever so briefly. Afe Obe from the Chargers signing a 4-year, $100 million deal, $68 million guaranteed with the Washington Commanders. Washington splashing some cash. They haven't really made any moves this morning. $68 million guaranteed, getting a very good defensive end there in Owe. Let's see. Full episode next Monday. Winners, losers. We'll see you then.